So, welcome to episode 4 of Mark My Words, the podcast series helping businesses and charities to be better, talking about and interviewing some great people to help you think about how you can improve your business or charity. So, today I'm warmly welcome Hannah Butler. Hi, Hannah.
Hello, Mark.
Thank you. And we've known each other for a couple of years now. So, could you introduce yourself first and tell us a bit about what you do?
My name's Hannah Butler. I am managing director of a company called Sensus Coaching, and we provide one-to-one coaching primarily for leaders and executives in public and voluntary sector. We also provide team and group coaching, and we also provide coach training as well. And I guess if you said, why would somebody come to coaching? Why would they be interested? And even I've been talking about it today, and for me, it's about when we're ready, when we feel ready to grapple with the difficult, I guess.
Thank you. And what would you say is the difference from broadly coaching to say counselling or therapy? And I know that's a massive subject and widely documented, as it were. But yeah, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I always think it's a bit like trying to catch a tiger by its tail, trying to pin something down definitively, trying to kind of corner it. But for me, I always feel as though the key difference is the organisational lens. If we were talking about counselling or therapy, it can be very much about the individual, and it can be family lens, or that, the lenses that you look through may have a slight variation, but the variation for me where coaching is concerned is bringing that organisational lens in, and what does it mean to look at something through the lens of an organisation.
hmm Thank you. And how did you get into it, and what made you get into coaching?
Oh gosh, yeah, great question. Well, my background is education, and along the way I found myself in leadership positions that I felt I'd kind of the stripes that I'd earned in order to get to the leadership positions were very process and systems, and worked as a classroom teacher and got great results as a classroom teacher. Worked in department, got great department results, but the amount of people that I've been working with was a small amount of people. You were only talking about a few numbers. And then I became head of a sixth form. And then you started to be looking at working with people across an organisation, and they may be working within different departments. And all of a sudden I kind of thought, oh, wow, I'm not sure I've got the skills in order to be able to motivate and engage people. And I was interested. I wanted to know more, and I wanted to know what my capabilities were as a leader and where that might take me. So I started to explore that myself and came across coaching, and just immediately fell in love with it. It was something that really spoke to me about the way that we interact with people, made me realize the work that I'd needed to do, and how this would be a continuous lifelong practice rather than a goal that I'd get to, and I could tick it off, that it had actually become part of a way that I live and a way that I am as an individual. And that continued. So with each promotion within education, I started to take that with me, and started to use it as a tool to really think about other people's development, and make that the focus of my leadership was about developing others. So that's where I came to. And then some 4 years ago, or just over 4 years ago, I took what didn't seem like a brave leap at the time to leave education, but when I reflect back on it, it was a huge leap, to leave an incredibly secure, well-paid role in education, to walk away from that, knowing that I'd got to where I wanted to be. I didn't want to go any further in education, and actually this was something that I wanted to pursue for myself. So I decided to leave education and set up my own business. And although the ride has been scary over 4 years, it's still one that I've enjoyed. So no regrets.
Good. And thinking about sort of coaching styles and techniques, then there's loads of different theories, approaches, loads of different techniques. Could you tell us anything about maybe what you're drawn to, or some helpful techniques that you might use? If that makes sense. I know that's a massive question.
Yeah. How long have you got?
Yeah.
I think I think people who ever do coach training with me will be aware that one of the things that I constantly and I feel quite strongly about is about the container that you provide for the individual that is in front of you at any one point in time. And so for me, it is, I'm not saying I ignore a process or a particular technique. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that for me, one of the real strong building blocks is about rapport and tuning in to the individual that's in front of you, and actually working out what is in service of them and working on behalf of them constantly. And for me, that's about holding a very safe container for them to be able to explore whatever it is that they want to explore. And that might involve using particular techniques at times, and it may be that the client will benefit from a particular technique, and then that's what you would bring. However, there are also times when a client needs the safe container more than they need anything else. And so therefore it's really about acting in service of that individual, and like I say, and bringing that kind of really beautiful space for that individual to be able to explore what it is that they want to explore.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And what would you say is one of your favourite approaches, or even books? I know books and approach different as well, but I know you're very well read as well.
I would say there are a number of books that have really kind of shaped the way that I think about coaching. And for anybody who comes at this from an experiential perspective, I would always advise them to read around Gestalt. For me, that's just that changed the way that I started to coach, and it really connected me to the importance of being with an individual, about being alongside an individual in a thinking environment or a feeling environment. What is it that we're going to bring to this session, and being able to think about how somebody is showing up and how I am showing up to that session as well, and what is and isn't happening between us. And so it's so for me, the Gestalt work and books around Gestalt are really useful. One book in particular that is The Fertile Void, that's written by John Leary Joyce. And that one I found is just an amazing book. But I still find myself now, mine's like a really well thumbed book, because I'll go back and I'll, when I'm in reflection, I'll say, right, I need to look at this. I need to really. And even when I read that book, I read it in a very mindful way, in the sense that I made a decision. And I think I'd read a book by Mitch Albom, and who's an author who writes, well, they're not always fictional stories, but there was one book, and it's not fictional. It's actually written about, and it's Tuesdays with Morey, who was his rabbi. And Morey had asked him to read something, and he said, but read it carefully. And so I made a decision that when I read the book by James Leary Joyce, I was going to do it in the true spirit of Gestalt, and being incredibly conscious and being in the present moment. So I made the choice to read 2 pages a day, and then the following day I would go back to those same 2 pages and read them again. And the first read was all about reading, taking it in. And then the second point of reading was about, what does this mean to me? How does this shape where I am, where I'm going with my coaching practice? And so I read it in a very unusual way. And I don't know whether that's a reason why it means as much to me as it does, because I read it using a particular technique, I guess.
Thank you. I've not heard of that, but yeah, I might have to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm doing a course with you at the moment, and some of my peers are as well, which I'm absolutely loving, and it's great. So tell us about that and the sort of teaching training bit that you do in terms of coaching.
I think it's really, really interesting because I still it, I reflect now. I reflect back on my teaching, and I wish that I wish I'd have known then what I do now, and because I think I would have brought the classroom to life in a very, very different way, and I think the classroom experience would have been a very different one today than it was even 5 or 6 years ago. Um, I know that my as a classroom teacher, I don't have any problem in saying that my classroom practice was incredibly strong. Um, However, how would that have shaped what I do now? And for me, it's about acknowledging and recognizing that everybody comes to a space with their own wisdom, with their own experiences, with their own language, um, with their own way of doing things as well. And actually, we all learn when we can bring that into a learning space. And so, rather than it being right, this is what we're going to be doing today, folks. This is what you're learning, and here's the information, and I'm going to fill you up like a vessel. The way that we aim to create the learning environment with Sensus coaching is that we aim to do that from a very experiential perspective, very much from everybody is coming to this with their own experience, their own knowledge, expertise. And so it's very much more of a learning community. So I'm always reluctant to call it training. I don't know why, but I'm always reluctant to call it training because for me, training, I think I've still got some suggestion that training's vessel filling, whereas I feel that this is much more about igniting thinking, igniting feelings, and how does that shape who we become, and the skills that we choose to develop, and the direction we choose to take. And I know that you all know this, Mark, that each of it, even though we're all in that space learning about coaching, what won't happen is we won't all come out of that the same coach. It's not going to, there's not going to be a duplication of coaches. What will happen is that everybody um, will leave and continue this experience in their own way, and they will become the coach that they choose to be and the people that they choose to work with.
Hmm. And what do you enjoy about doing the training, or whatever you call it, with the new coaches?
Um, Connecting to people is probably one of my favorite things in the entire world, and I just think people are just amazing and beautiful. I just do. I just look at people and I kind of like go, oh God, you're just gorgeous. I just do. I just think people blow me away every single day. And and I look at people with like awe and surprise. And so really, probably, like, if I'm really selfish about it, I feel like I'm learning. Like, I look at people and I look at you and you'll do something in coaching, I'll think, gosh, that's just blinking brilliant. That's like amazing. um, and observing people's transformation as well and development, and it feels like a massive privilege to be a part of that as well. So yeah, so I guess there's sometimes it sounds like a bit of like indulgence in a way, doesn't it? Like the fact that I get so much from it. But I do get so much from people, from being I believe people are fundamentally good. Like I say, so I get to live that out every day. And not only do I get to live it out when I look at my family and I look at my husband and I think, gosh, you're amazing, you're gorgeous, and I just absolutely adore you. I get to live it out in my work as well when I see people around me in coaching and thinking, gosh, you're amazing. I love you. I adore you. So yeah, so it's a really, real huge privilege to be a part of that journey for people, and whether that's coach training or whether that's coaching a team, and particularly like I say, when you're coaching teams and individuals and they're grappling with something that you can see is incredibly difficult for them to grapple with, and that can be all kinds of like real ethical and struggles, when you've got somebody who may need to make redundancies, and actually it feels so challenging for them, and so difficult, and how do they balance um, the organization and people, and how do they hold that in a sensitive and compassionate way? So for me, I think that's incredibly responsible role that a coach plays, but also remembering that it's a huge privilege to be with people in that way.
And I think that goes both ways, because we met a couple of years ago in the Chamber of Commerce environment when I was sort of helping with some policy stuff, and I remember quite early on meeting you, didn't I? I always kept saying, I just like your vibe. So there's something about your approach, your authenticity. Just you put people at ease, and yeah. So I think that's really unique. And of course, you'd expect that to some extent from any coach, but there's something different, I would say. Yeah, you go up a gear.
Oh, thank you.
If that made any sense. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I could just talk to you for like days and days, but we're not got loads of time. But so tell us now a bit about the EMCC. So what is it, and what's your role with it?
Yeah, the EMCC is the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. And ultimately, coaching is not a regulated profession. So anybody can claim to be a coach, anybody can claim to be a mentor, and they can sell their wares like openly, and not have any knowledge or experience of coaching or mentoring. And some people can do that and do it and do it incredibly well. So I don't want to say that there are lots of people out there without qualifications and all of that kind of thing, and say that they offer a bad job. That may not be the case. However, what the EMCC aims to do is to really give clients some reassurance around the quality of the coaching that they are purchasing. And so what we do as a membership, we're a membership body. You can sign up to be a member. You can also be an accredited member as well. And as an accredited member, you would become somebody a potential client could search for. And we not only do we hold a framework of coaching and mentoring competencies that our coaches are expected to use as a guide to their personal development, we also have a global code of ethics and a code of conduct around diversity and inclusion as well. And so there's some reassurances around if people are part of the EMCC, then they are encouraged to engage with the EMCC around their coaching development, their mentoring development. We encourage people to become accredited. We encourage them to have regular supervision, which again, is one way of checking that you are buying quality coaching. Is to one of the first questions I would always ask is, tell me about your supervision. How often? Who's your supervisor? Those kind of things, so that you can be assured as a client that you are actually getting a quality, and that you can actually do that through EMCC. So and I would advise coaches and mentors out there, the EMCC, it doesn't charge a huge amount for its membership, and yet I believe that what you get in return, when I look at the amount of CPD that's on offer and the amount of opportunities to connect with other coaches and and some real senior professionals as well in the industry. And so for me, I think EMCC is a great organisation to be involved in. And I've had some real opportunities to speak and chat with some real leading professionals in the coaching and mentoring industry. And so I think it's a great organisation, and I'm the director of knowledge exchange for the EMCC, which means I get to work with beautiful volunteers, and I think we've got somewhere in the region of about 40 or 50 volunteers now, doing a wide range of roles within the organisation as well. Some of them come along and they are, the speakers. They provide CPD for our members. Sometimes it's a member to, it's member to member, so it might be a discussion. But we've got a real wealth of members involved in EMCC. So that's how I ended up getting involved, just because I was a member and I thought, gosh, this is a great organisation to be involved with. So yeah.
I joined coming up for a year ago. I definitely agree. It's been really good for all the stuff you learn. There's something about that credibility as well, by signing up to that sort of code and the code of ethics and that approach. And just the people that you meet. Yeah, there's always something going on, which is good.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. So you might have said this a little bit earlier, but what would you say to somebody who was thinking about maybe I'd like to try coaching or I could benefit from it, but is a bit nervous, isn't too sure? What would you say to them?
Yeah. I would going back to work that we were talking about this morning, which was the head, gut, and heart. So first of all, I would look for coaches, mentors that offer a chemistry session or a rapport session. They might call it different things, but they offer that free of charge in the first place. Because for me, it's really, really important that you have got a connection with the person that is going to be either coaching or mentoring you. I think that's really important. So aim to, and even if it's only, kind of a 15-minute session, and then listen to yourself and you'll know whether you've got a rapport with that individual. The next thing I would look for would be, are they a member of a membership body like the EMCC, or there's International Coaching Federation, there's the AOC as well. There's lots of organisations that people can be a member of. So look to see if they are a member. And then the other thing I would ask would be about supervision. Do they engage in regular supervision? And just generally, you could even ask about qualifications and training. What qualifications have you got, and what's your background, what's your experience, because that might all be relevant for you when you are purchasing coaching or mentoring. But yeah, I would absolutely advise anybody who's thinking of engaging in coaching and mentoring to do their background work and to make sure that you engage with a coach that feels right for you. I would not be right for everybody. I'm not under any illusion that I would be the right coach for everybody. And hopefully somebody meeting me would actually realize that as well, or would realize it together. And I would be more than happy to support somebody in finding the right coach for them as well. So I think it's that idea that you'll know whether this person's right for you or not. You will know whether you are going to be making the right type of the development that you want to make at that moment in time. So I guess it's, and also do a little bit of reflection in terms of what is it that you want? What do you want to get from coaching? What are you expecting to get from coaching? And just do a bit of homework, bit of research. And do a bit of go and do a bit of window shopping first.
And then, is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to add or say at all?
Yeah, I think for me, I think, like I say, if you're thinking about coaching, and it may be mindful that even when you purchase coaching and you've purchased it with a particular goal in mind and that's been contracted for, that it may not end up being exactly as you intended, because it may go in a different direction. And a good coach will support and enable you to travel in that direction, and will be able to recontract and say, we're kind of shifting, we're moving from where we intended to be. And so for me, I think one of the biggest things for somebody to come into that place as a skilled coachee would be, know what you want in now, expect that there may be change, and be really, really open to that change as well. Be open and ready. and to have thoughts and beliefs challenged as well.
Mhm. Brilliant, thank you. And then finally, is there anything else you want to ask me? I always ask my guests this, and this is my nervous bit, but yeah, 'cause I never know what's coming. But is there any question you want to ask me?
Yeah, I'll ask you about coaching. You know, I know that you're in the process of developing your coaching, as we all are. You know, we're all developing our coaching. That doesn't stop, Mark. What has it meant for you?
Very good question. Yeah, I think I feel almost like awakened. So a lot of my background and experience and qualifications have been in counselling, psychology, helpline, emotional support work. And it's been really refreshing to find coaching because, like we said at the beginning, there's sort of what's the key difference between coaching and counselling. And so I feel like it's given me a new lease of life in that sense. So a new journey to explore, if that doesn't sound too cheesy. Um, and what I really like, and I guess, similarly with counselling, is the fact that the wisdom's within the people. It's just asking the right questions, the open questions, and giving them the space to think things through. And they often come up with their own decisions or a viewpoint that they weren't aware that they had. So it's like you're holding a mirror up to people, and I think that's what I like. And I think you mentioned it almost again. It feels like a privilege that you're being with somebody through a challenging time, whatever that is, be it that in a personal life, be it in business, or being it in working with a team that they find challenging. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
No, no, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. And like I said, I definitely recommend for anyone's listening or watching your courses. It's been
Thank
again a pleasure to find those as well. I feel lucky that I've found those. And yes, good luck for the next adventure. And I'm sure
you.
we'll
Yeah,
see you on the EMCC circuit again shortly. Thank
you
you.
will do. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.